actually, how do you start as a mom blogger, and how do you drive this passion in you to continue doing this for so long? Share with me.
I think I started as a mom blogger because my intention was to write. I want to become a writer, but I want to become a freelance writer and work from home so I could spend time with my kids, who were back then very, very young, maybe about 5 and 7 years old. So they were still very young. So then I realized that I was getting more calls from PR, public relations managers than editors. So I thought, why not give it a go? And the interesting request was every time they invited me to an event, I had to bring my kids. So I thought, great, so I can, I don't have to pay for babysitting. I could just bring them along. Before long, I realized that they were actually my work bag, my suitcases, or my work assets. And great, because they were having a good time. They were being exposed to all the Disney characters, the events. So they got to see it firsthand first. So they were happy. I was happy. And I was interacting with the other moms, making new friends and working at the same time. So I was very happy. So it checked all the boxes for me as a working mom back then. So that's how I fell into becoming a parent blogger. I also find that there were a lot of benefits to becoming a parent blogger, not just in being introduced to new events and meeting new people, but it's also a way for me to bond with the kids. It actually gave us a lot of beautiful memories, very happy memories with the kids. And it also gave me a third advantage, and that was how to teach my kids to socialize very, very early on, and to conduct themselves in public with strangers, and to not be afraid of strangers. Because one thing I find about my kids is when they're with me, they are very chatty. But when they are when they meet someone new, like an auntie or uncle or stranger outside, they immediately become very quiet. They don't know what to say, or they tend to hide. So these kind of events, meeting people, was a great way for them to constantly meet new people, strange people, and not be shy and be bold about it. Right? And I'm sure a lot of moms out there with very shy kids can understand. If you have a kid who is very bold, no problem, no issue. But the shy kids, so both my kids were very shy, so that helped them to learn manners, number one. And number two, at these kind of events, sometimes they have opportunities to be interviewed. So there's a camera, there's a microphone. So both my kids have grown up with these experiences. So they were very comfortable in front of the camera. They were very comfortable holding a mic and speaking into it. So public speaking is not an issue for them.
Then I want to ask you, so may I ask you, share with me again, you shared me just now already, but share with me again, and share the audience also, how do you bring your kids and not feel like you're utilizing them as a tool for marketing? Because I guess a lot of influencers, a lot of people who are sharing posts, they might think the influencers are using your kids as tools. What was your reasoning, and how do you feel about it?
That's a very good question. I think it's something that a lot of parent bloggers, influencers, they may or may not struggle with. I think a lot of parents, we do not want to use our kids, right? But for me, I see it from the perspective that not so much as using our kids as a marketing tool, but I think we are seeing this as helping our kids be exposed to gadgets and tools and to experiences that they are already growing up in. I mean, social media is very much, so I always call my kids digital age kids, right? Because this is where they grow up in. And so I think it's great for them to, I don't see it as using my kids. I see it as giving them a different dimension of opportunity that many other kids actually do not have the opportunities to. So I feel my kids are quite lucky in that sense.
So then how have they felt about it? I mean, other than the freebies they get, you told me about the Star Wars, the Lego that they get, but other than the freebies, how do they feel about it? Now that they've grown up, they can think a little bit. How do they feel about it when in their youth they were thrown into limelight, they were thrown into difficult situations? We call it uncomfortable situations. How did they feel about it? How did they react?
Yeah. So you must remember when my kids were young, they didn't understand that this was all free, right? They didn't know that mom actually. So they're not free because mom is actually bartering it with her words, right?
Yes.
Helping the companies and the brands to create some branding for them. So, but for them, because their understanding is not so much as work but as fun, right? And it's mom taking them to another event, mom bring them to, it's mom's always with them or dad's always with them. So for them, they never thought of it as like free things or freebies. So after about 6 months into these events, they did sort of say, Mom, where's the goodie bag? So they start to expect free things, right? So I have to sit down with them and educate them that, yes, we do go to these events and we get free things, but mommy is also taking photos, writing about it, blogging about it, and helping to brand. So they understood that part. And after that, they were very cooperative when it comes to taking photos, right? So they were actually working with me because they understood this is part of mommy's work. So that's one thing. And I think it's very good, again, coming back to not utilizing our kids as a marketing tool, but they are understanding work ethics. I thought that was great, starting them from that young. Now, of course, back then when they were young, as they grow up, so my kids were 5 and 7 when they started on this blogging journey. But by the time they were about 10, 11, 12, they start to have a bit of a pullback because it starts getting tiring to smile at the camera all the time and holding stuff up, right? So they start to give feedback in different ways, like I don't want to go, or is this necessary, So once you see that resistance, that's your cue as a mom to pull back a little, that your kids might want to start to slowly fade out of this, blogging phase. So, and so that's what I did. I allowed them to exit, and I didn't force them to come with me. If I really need them, I will ask them, and it's their choice whether they want to come or not. So, and through that, they were also learning that they matter. Their opinion matters. It's not just about mom says you must go, but it's also about their opinion matters. So, and they have the option, and they were fine with it.
Can I just ask you, how has the just a out of topic thing? How has the industry changed? Because you did this whole thing, the influencing thing, a long time ago, since 2012. Back then, it's more like blogging. Today, it's all forms of media. How has it changed? And you mentioned to me that now your kids are also on TikTok. They are very good in video editing. How has everything evolved, and how do you put it together as a picture that they've learned?
All right, so let me answer the last part of your question first, okay? So how it's evolved with my kids is, so because they've grown up with seeing mom always taking photos with the phone, with the camera, running around, and they've also seen my website, right?
Yes.
So how they've evolved is, they've become very comfortable using the camera. They are very comfortable with social media themselves, and they are very proficient in it. And they've slowly graduated from being in front of the camera to going behind the camera and doing the producing and the directorship of it. So they're very comfortable with it. It's not foreign. They know how to use it. They know how what to use it for. They know how to manage themselves. So for them, they don't, and like my daughter, she has an Instagram account. It's very private. She's included me because I've asked her, and I'm very mindful not to like too much and not to click on it, right? And not to interact too much. And some of her friends, very funny, some of her friends have also started to like my Instagram account, right? To follow a post of her. So that's really interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, to answer your question, so I hope that answered your question about how they've evolved and yeah. And as to how the changes in the blogging industry, there's been so much changes, right? So I think a lot of the parent bloggers nowadays they don't blog as much, as in they don't write. They have turned to different social media channels. I think their media channel of choice is Instagram. All right. So in Instagram now, you can write. So they're a little bit more proficient on that. I think there are still a percentage of the old bloggers from my day and age who still blogs and writes and use that as facilitate that as a tool. But I think many of them have actually transferred to Instagram, Pinterest. I think many of them are also using TikTok. And so maybe the ones who are a little bit more old school like me, who still likes to write, we are on we're still on the blogging platform and LinkedIn.
This thing about writing that I really like. So I don't know why, but talking about it's not as enjoyable as writing it out in words. You actually can paint a more creative picture, a more articulate picture whenever I write. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, the other thing is it's on video. Right, like what we're doing now. So a lot of moms are moving slowly to be a little bit more visual instead of the writing parts. Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to ask you this question because it's very clear in all your blogs, in all your writings, and all. Why is it being a mom is something that you're so proud of, and why is it having kids specifically and knowing what they need, educating them, and giving the best? Why is it important to you, and why is it such a proud identity for you?
Okay, so if I understand the question correctly, why am I so proud of being a mom?
Yes.
Okay. I think I'm very proud of being a mom because I think it's, I think like so many moms, right? I think it's God's grace. I'm not a religious person, but I really truly believe that children are gifts from heavens to us. And for me, it's right from the first time I've held my babies, it's always to that I am entrusted to take care of them for the time being. And it is my job to make sure that they are self-sufficient and independent as they grow up. So it's about caring for them. So that for me is why it was so important to be a mom, to nurture and take care of them. I have to admit that there were times when I felt a bit lost because then all of a sudden you are so and so's mom. You've lost your name.
Yes, absolutely for us.
Yeah. So I think there was a period of time where I was a bit lost, and I felt like, who am I if it wasn't for the kids, right? But I told myself after a while, I guess the deeper awareness came when I told myself that while I love my kids, the kids are an extension of me, not the other way around. Yeah. I sometimes see that a lot of moms, the kids, they feel that they are an extension of their kids, which is not right. Okay? You are the mom. That's why you're the adult and you come first. Then the kids. And because you've done so well, the kids are given to you, so you can take care of them, and you lead them, right? So that's why I feel like the kids are an extension of me. So for me, my identity is after my kids are done with like once I see that they're independent enough that they're in school, I decided to work on myself to regain my identity as me. Because I think it's really, really important to do that. Why? There's a reason why, okay? So let me gather my thoughts. So the reason I wanted to do that is because when you know who you are and the kids are following you, they understand what it's like to be a woman. If you have a son, your son will be looking for the wife, the woman to marry, right? So you want to be a good role model. So your son knows who to look up for. Your daughter will know how to be a strong, independent, educated woman. So that's why it's very important for me that I need to find back my identity, know who I am so that I have an extension of myself, right? So I want to share this story with you. And it just happened a couple of, maybe about 10 days ago. So everybody's locked down. So occasionally my kids will still have dinners and meals with me. So we were talking about, I cannot remember what we were talking about, but my daughter was mentioning that, I think we were talking about K-pop, and you know, the teenagers are very into K-pop. So she was mentioning that, hey mom, you know, in K-pop dramas, right, all the women are always like victims, you know, like, oh my gosh, we're so helpless, and we need someone to save us, or we need someone to guide us, right? So she was talking about that, and she said, Mom, I'm so glad you're not one of those. I was like, yes. Because essentially what she's told me is, Mom, you're a strong woman, and I get it. I dig it. So for me, that was a real affirmation that everything that I've been trying to practice and do, the message got across to my daughter. She understands what it is to be a strong young woman. And for me, that is an absolutely perfect affirmation.
Wow. I mean, you're right. I hear this all the time, that a lot of people say that they feel like victims. Everything revolves around their children. They've lost their identity. They are called somebody's mom, somebody's dad. Very true. So, but it must have taken her some time to get the realization, and it's something that you've been building and building for years and years and years.
Yes. So like you, right? Because your daughter's only 4 years old. So between like 4 and even in early primary school, right, the teachers will say, "Oh, you're so and so's mom, or so and so's dad," right? But then at some point, later, you can reclaim that. But just because you are so and so's dad, in school only, right, in play school, but outside there you have a different. So the interesting thing is that as we are women and mom, you are men, dad, right? So we are actually wearing 2 different hats, but at the same time. Okay, so it's so the fact that you're so and so's dad doesn't last, right? But you need to, your core must still be firm, because eventually your child will grow up. You will no longer be child's dad. You will be, you claim back your own original, because your child also don't want to see you as child's dad. They want to see you as just dad, right? So that was really important, because and I thought it was great that my daughter got the message that I wanted her to be a strong young woman, and she got it. And she saw me as a strong woman, because when there's a problem, I resolve it. I don't let anything get me down. I do it step by step. Not that I don't have any challenges, but I take steps, and my daughter sees that. She gets it.
I get what you mean. That means you have this mindset that everything is the glass half full. So she will have that same mindset. She don't blame the economy. She don't blame pandemic. She don't blame teachers no good. Whatever she has to solve, she just go and solve it, because she's easy to do it.
Yeah. Oh, she will blame. Of course she will, because she's a child, right? She's still in the learning process. But the thing is, I don't hide my failures from her. Like if I fall down, if I lose a job, if I come back and I got scolded by my boss, and naturally I'm a little upset, and she sees I'm upset, I don't necessarily hide it from her. She will come to me and say what's happening, and I will tell her I had a really bad day, something didn't go right, and you don't have to give her full details, but she sees that, oh, okay, it wasn't a good day, but you know what? Tomorrow is a brand new day. Next week, much better. The week after, she got praise from her boss. There's progression. So it's not a matter of you fall down and that's it, you stay down, right? You fall down, you get up. Because mom's also human. From the time my kids were 10 years old, I tell them, I'm human. If I yell at you, I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm very clear to them that I'm a human being. I make mistakes. And so they see me as very, very human. And because of that, they're also not afraid to come and talk to me. Because I'm not like this superhero forever, So like now your daughter's only 4. Naturally, she'll see you as superhero for a long time more.
Yes.
Right? But eventually that veil starts to come down for her. So how do you then make yourself a little bit more human? So the transition to that has to be quite natural. Then it's not a shock one day for her that, oh my God, that's not superhero. What happened? He doesn't have magical powers, right? So, but they will start to see the magical powers in a different light. That's also human, can be vulnerable. But at the same time, wow, that has all these qualities, human qualities that I really want to adopt for myself. Now that I feel is superpower in itself.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
because that's part of your legacy being passed on.
Yeah, I think my daughter's quite sharp. It's like when I have a bad day, and to be honest, the last year was a bad year for me. As in, everything was very tough, and I was having a lot of stress. But I'm not the kind of person who complains also, so I keep it here, and I don't say anything. But she could see the energy. Like when I come back home, I was not very present. I was always thinking about solving the what issues I was having with in the office, with my clients and everything. And then she could see it, so she kind of always asked me questions like, "Why are you sad? What's wrong?" Yeah, but I try to hide it. So now I understand what you mean. I never try to explain. I always try to hide it.
Yeah, so I'm not advocating, because I think sometimes these adult issues are too big for young kids, right? But I think if you can answer in simple terms and explain to them, I think it goes a much longer way than trying to hide it, because you know what you are, you're being honest. And for my kids, I've always told them, I will always be honest with you. So even if they do something that they're very proud of and they thought they did very well, and then they ask me, so Mom, what do you think? I will ask them, do you want the honest answer or do you want the nice answer? So they know.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, when I went out to work, that was when I understood and learned so much, like what you're telling me now. So when you ask for something from your parents back then, let's just say it's time, and they're having a crucial, stressful period of work, you will never understand that when they go up, they get scolded by their boss or they have so much stress. You just assume that life revolves around you. And only when you go out to work, you realize that, wow, actually they're dealing with so much when they come home, and then you still have to deal with me.
Yeah, yes. And I think it helps them as well, because, you know, especially when your kids in primary school, they go to school and they'll get scolded by teachers, right? Sometimes when they come home, they're having a bad day and they don't know how to tell you. But if you have had that relationship whereby they know, hey, Mom also had a bad day where she was scolded by a client, or she got yelled at, you know, or it was just a bad day, you know, something went wrong. You know, if they had a bad day, they know you can relate, or, you know, they won't feel like they can't tell you, because it's, you know, because kids, for them, right, the bad days become such a big thing for them, and they don't realize that tomorrow is a brand new day, right?
Okay, that resonates with me. That I'm going to remember that. I'm going to explain to her. Yeah, it's true. I mean, like, because my kid had one bad day whereby she's only 4. Yeah, now she's back. I think when she was only 2+, I think she spilled water on the floor in school, and then she just got told off nicely. Didn't scold, but she remembered it for days and days and days, on to weeks. Every time she sees the teacher or she comes to our school, she'll tell us about the same thing, that she spilled water and then she got told off. So yeah, maybe there's something that is a good learning lesson. I wanted to ask you also, so my kids are 4 and 1. I know you started blogging when your kids were 5 and 7. What can I expect within the next 10 years that I can learn from? Because I wonder if I could see future through what you have seen, the lens that you have, what do I expect for the next 10 years when they become tweens and teens?
Okay, so all right, so I think right now your daughter will be in the preschool stage, right? So after the preschool stage, there will be the primary school stage. Okay, the primary school stage is from 7 years to about 12.
12.
But yeah, 12. But in between, at 10, that's when the tween year starts. TWEEN, right? The tween, and then the teen year starts. Okay, so 10 years old is when hormonals kick in. The hormones kick in. Okay, so that's going to be your first phase of hormones. So, so at each stage, very different. So preschool are the cutest. Okay, so as your child goes through different phases, you as a parent also go through different phases. So your preschoolers at this phase, your child is 4 to 6 preschool. So you as a parent, you're going through the phase as an educator and a carer. Okay, so in the primary school stage, that's when the education kicks in. It becomes a big part of your child's life, and then you will take on not only as a carer, an educator, you become also the teacher. Okay, so what's the difference between an educator and a carer? So at this phase, as an educator, you're still very much very kind, you're teaching them, explaining things to them, right? As a teacher, you're really teaching them a lot of different things, right? You are teaching them about how to be respectful, you're teaching them about discipline, you're teaching them how to take care of themselves, you're teaching them how to, how to socialize, how to make friends, what to do. So it's a more teaching phase. And of course, you're teaching them about all the subject matters, right? Mm-hmm. English, math, science, okay? So that's when the teacher phase starts. Now then, at some point, you will also start to take on another role, and that's the role of maybe a counselor or a social worker, right? Because they will have troubles with their friends, and a lot of times the kids don't know how to tell you, so you need to watch their non-verbal skills, right? And then you have to ask questions. So if you notice, like, counselors don't ask typical questions like parents ask. How was your day? Typical counselors, the social worker will say, "Oh, I see you're feeling sad. What's up? Things like that." Okay, so it's a very different kind of communication skill. Okay, and tween and teen years, that's when hormone kicks in, right? And then plus the pressures of PSLE. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that might be a bit tough. So you remember, throughout all this time, all the phases, you're still mom or dad. You're still parent. So you if you got a fingers, you would have counted. I've come up with 5 different roles. So by the time you're in the primary school years, you've taken on 5 different roles, right? Okay. So maybe educator, not so much, but you're a teacher, social worker, right? And mom or dad. And I think during the tween and teen years, you need to start adopting more of a friend role. So let me quantify. When I say friend role, it's not friend as in their peers, but a more friendly role to them, because you want them to continue to talk to you. So if you haven't established that, then it's very difficult for them to talk to you. So that's why a lot of parents of teenagers complain, my teens don't talk to me. They don't talk to you because they don't see you in a friendly manner. They see you as always telling them off, telling them what's wrong with them. So they don't see you as friendly. So they won't talk to you. Okay, you're the enemy number 1. Okay, so that's where you want to avoid. Yeah. So these are your different phases, and so I don't want to overwhelm your audience, right? But I think if your audience have a lot of preschoolers,
it's mostly preschoolers.
Mostly preschoolers, then this is a good time to enjoy the relationship with your child, right? Because they're so cute at this age, okay? They're so damn cute, sorry, but they're really, really so cute at this age. And record them, take photos of them, because this is really seriously the cutest age. And I've got thousands of photos. My kids think I'm crazy, but thousands of photos of them. And inculcate good habits in them. Okay, so good habits, what are good habits? Like hygiene, right? Brush their teeth, right? Wash their hands, especially in these COVID times. These are good habits. Teach them how to socialize, make friends.
Yes.
Right? So kids really don't know how to make friends. They just go and they play, right? They play. But again, the shyer kids, you need to teach them how to make friends. Your bolder, more aggressive kids, you need to teach them how to share so that they don't have any problems later on. Teach them how to communicate, tell you their feelings, because again, they don't know, right? So you must be able to teach them that, oh, you know, what you're feeling now is maybe angry, you know, frustration. Okay, I can see that, I understand, you know. So teach them how to communicate so that they can tell you, I'm frustrated, you know, I cannot do this, you know, okay, or I'm very sad. So teach them to talk about things. The other thing that teach them inculcate reading, okay, because if you are thinking about enrolling your kids into our local primary school, yeah, if reading and writing helps, okay, so if they enjoy reading, guess what, studying is not so difficult, okay. If they don't enjoy reading, then it's very difficult.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, and also, you know, if your daughter is at 4 years old, so this is when her learning style will start to show. Okay, by the time she's 6 years old, you will know what is a dominant learning style. Okay, now it doesn't mean, so if you know about learning style, there are 3 types of learning style. Okay, so you have the visual, you have the auditory, and then you have the kinesthetic. Okay, visual means it's quite self-explanatory. You see things, you learn by looking at them, seeing how somebody demonstrate to you. So child with visual, they enjoy reading. Child with audio, they talk to you. They are very talkative. They like to listen to music, right? And the child with kinesthetic, they cannot sit still. This is the type of child. Even if they're sitting down on a chair, they're not sitting with their butt on the chair. They're squatting on the chair. They're turning around the chair. So it's these are your 3. Now, every one of us, even as adults, right? We have 3 learning styles. One of them is more dominant. Like mine is visual. Okay. So you have to start seeing what is your child. So like my daughter. So I have a son and a daughter. So my son is visual, number 1, and audio, and then a bit of kinesthetic. Okay. So that's his. He loves to read, and so when we were teaching them spelling at preschool, right? Just about to go into primary 1, they have to learn spelling, right? My daughter, my son, very fast. Whatever he learns, it takes him almost like 5-10 minutes to learn 10 spelling words, and he can remember and ace it. Okay, ace it meaning getting 9, 10. Okay, my daughter, I thought same methods, right? But it turns out my daughter is more auditory. So every time I teach her, I teach her three times, right? She cannot remember. So she'll come back and her spelling will be like 4 out of 10, 6 out of 10, you know, terrible scores. So then we realized, oh, we have to teach her in different ways. So we start singing the words, or we start having to use the words, like synchronize it or tell her a story, and then she remembers. So it's a very weird thing, right? So, and because my daughter is auditory, kinesthetic, and visual is last. So for her, when she learns something, she actually have to practice more, do her notes more. Okay, so if you understand their learning style, it's very helpful to help your child learn, and it will empower your child, because then your child feels more confident. Okay, and I want to share this story with you if you have time.
I have no problem. Go ahead.
So because my mistake was I realized my daughter's learning style a little bit later than my son. So in primary 1 and primary 2, I realized that her grades were going down. Like it was, you know, primary 1 is easy, 80-90%, right? Primary 2 it was 70%. Primary 3 it was 60%. I was like, what's going on here? And I also noticed that my daughter was getting very discouraged. You know, she felt she was not very smart, right? So her whole demeanor was just, you know, going quieter and quieter. She's already very quiet, but she's getting quieter and quieter. So I realized that, you know, this cannot be. So I then checked with her learning style, realized what her learning style is. I sat down with her. I explained to her. Remember, she's only in primary 3. So how old is she? She's 9 years old.
Going 10.
Yeah,
9 years old.
9 years old, right? So I sat down with her and I said, this is your learning style. This is what we are going to do. Okay, this is how we're going to start learning your mathematics, your science, your English, and your Chinese. And mommy will be here to help you. So here's the key ingredient. First of all, she explained to her learning style. And then number two, the assurances that she's not alone. Okay, because I think when you're in primary school, you feel very alone. So with these two empowerment, I sat down with her every day. She went from failing her mathematics in primary 3, like literally 38, to semester 1 in primary 4, she got 94%. 94, right? And semester 2, she got a 96%. And by the end of semester 2, she was calling herself, I'm a math genius. She started with, I am so stupid, I cannot study, to, I'm a math genius. You see, the turnaround was like that quick. And this is 9, 10 years old. I'm very happy to tell you that now she is 15 years old. I don't have to worry about her study because she is self-studying on her own. She is so independent in her studies, and I check in on her all the time, right? And she tells me, I've got it, mom, no problem, no issue. So that's where I realized that confidence in your child is the most important and most valuable asset you can ever give your child. That's the best gift.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that you actually take time to learn how to learn for them. So, I mean, I went through the same. I know a lot of people who went through the same thing. So, when I couldn't score well, because I'm not a visual learner, so I was spending a lot of time watching TV, and that's how I learned how to speak. That's how I learned how to spell. I see the subtitles. My Mandarin was learned through watching Chinese shows and the English subtitles at 9 o'clock last time, back in the day. There's no such thing now. But that's how I was learning. And then to my parents and to teachers, they find that was not the right way. You should be reading your book, spending time reading. But it just couldn't resonate with me. So now I understand. It's because you took time to learn. She's at this stage right now. But can I ask you, because I saw you also debated on the Singapore education system, how is she doing well right now, even though the material that's given to her is still visual, it's still books, and it's still words? How does she change it for herself?
So our education system, we have no control over, so we can't change it. So the only thing we could change was her. So number one, we changed her perception of herself. She initially started thinking she was a terrible student. She can't study. Two, I can study. You know, it's got nothing to do with her intelligence. It was the way she was studying. Her methodology was wrong. So with that perception, she realized actually she is a good student. And when I say she's doing well, I'm talking about she's doing A's and B's. Okay. Wow. So she literally went from a F to A's and B's student. So and no tuition, by the way, absolutely zero. So I credit all her studying to her, right? So that's one. So changing her perception, right? And giving her that kind of, yes, it's a psychology effect, right? So, and with that confidence, I see that building up from the time she was 10 years old, that confidence just kept building and building and building. Was she stressed? Definitely. But she, and so the second thing is she sees, you know, like if she has a bad day, of course she'll cry and there's tears, but I'm there to, as a parent, to support her, comfort her. Okay, let me see how I can help. And then of course she, you know, and setting that example that we also don't do well, we fail, we fall down, we have bad days, keep going, right? Keep going. Okay, so that's two. Number three is her learning style. She understood how she learned is as a kinesthetic learner, she has to practice. She has to write. She has to remember. She has to, you know, do it. She has to study longer than a visual or auditory student. So she put in the effort. And when they were in primary school, like before exam, I always buy this big A3 size calendar, and I'll write down every day so I plan out their study schedules. 3 weeks before exams, they have their planning. So we'll sit down with the child and we say, what are you going to do when, it's very tedious and it's very tough. But you know what? She adopted that and she's learned how to do that on her own. So for her, 3 weeks or even maybe 5 weeks, right, depending on how whether it's a big exam or not, she would then sit down and she plan herself what she needs to study. And I always tell her that if you finish 80% of what, because sometimes schedule changes, right? So I will teach them to build in buffer zones so that if she miss out on subject, hey, at least she has got 2 days later, she's got some free time she can, pitch that in. So it's not so stressful for her. So these little methods help her to manage her study schedule. So she was able to do it herself, and then constantly and also taking notes. So she's also done she's also done that. The other thing I want to bring up also is when she was young, I think she's gonna kill me if she hears it, but my daughter writes terribly. Her handwriting was awful. So I think if there are any parents out there with preschoolers, right, there are some children who write beautifully, and I was always very envious of that. My daughter was not one of those child, okay? She writes terribly. So I will always complain. I'm like, girl, you are a girl. Why is your handwriting so bad? Even your brother's handwriting is better than you. Now, so back then I was very worried, right? But you know what? Now at 14, she's got beautiful handwriting. You know why? Because she's always practicing and writing. So for those parents who are very worried, oh my gosh, my daughter has terrible handwriting, I say, don't worry. They will work themselves out over the years.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't try and control those micro stuff that I say, not so determining in the long term, like handwriting, I try and control the minor stuff, the macro stuff, which is more critical, like what you say, building good habits, positive thinking. I wanted to ask you this though. You sound like super involved kind of a parent, and which is what I'm trying to be. So I try and be the dad at the playground who knows every child's name. They will all come to me and call me daddy, even though they're not my child. I mean, they know me as my daughter's dad, Avery's dad, but then they all kind of call me, because that's the guy I want to be. I want to be the clown at the playground. I want to be the dad that they can talk to me about anything. But is there such a thing called over teaching and over managing? I was just wondering, because you sound very involved, and a lot of parents, when they listen to this, be like, wow, sounds so tiring. A lot of parents I speak to who are in my peer group, they say, I'm really so tired after work. I don't really want to do that much at home.
Yeah, I am so glad you brought this up. I am a very involved mom, but you know what? I'm not a helicopter mom. So I don't sweat the small stuff, but I give my kids a lot of room. But I am the mother hen at a distance. I'm watching in, or rather, I shouldn't say mother hen. I'm like an eagle, right? So I can swoop in to rescue my child if she needs to. But otherwise, my child has a lot of room to play around with. So I hear what you're saying. It's great to be involved. So being involved means that you know what your child needs, and you know how to help your child. That's being involved. Being involved is not like every minute of every second you're there for the child. That's being too much. Okay, I'm not that. So when it comes to the big stuff like the education, my child's well-being, I'm very involved. I know what they need, and I know what I need to do to help them get there. So, or if I don't know how to help them get there, I will research, I will investigate. That's what I mean by being involved. But like you, I also I'm more into the bigger things like communication, confidence. I'm more into social well-being. In terms of education wise, right? The difference between, I would say, Jeremy, between you and I is because I'm a mom and you're a dad. Okay. So mom and dad operates very differently. So dad tends to be more overview. Mom
exactly.
tends to manage the micro stuff, right?
Very
so
true.
Like me, I have to manage the logistics and the education, because I see their grades and I see the progress, right? Whereas dad just sees the final exam, the result. Okay, so that's where the differ is. Yeah. So I hope that answers your questions about being too involved and being helicopter is very different. Yeah. Okay. Being involved is a good thing because that means you know who your child is, you know what your child needs, and you know, you can then step in when your child needs you and step out when your child don't need you.
Understand? Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I mean, this is what my wife says all the time. Dad's expectations and dad's education style is very different from the mom, and what she looks at and what she focuses on is like every time her school sends an email about a notice to follow up on something, to pay, to join this enrichment class, the purpose, she's on top of that. I'm not very on top of that, but I'm very on top of the end result, like whether she's in these development levels, whether she's hitting her development achievements, not achievements, but I would say like, there's those development level skills, like at this age you must be this, at this age you must be this, whether she's getting that motor skills, whether she's getting that skills. I care more about those. I wanted to ask you, like, what were your expectations in the last 10 years plus versus your challenges? That means when your kids were 5 to 7, when you were going to start blogging, what were your expectations and challenges as a child? And what did you realize in the last 10 years? Like, so you were expecting that it was going to be easy? You were expecting that they were going to have challenges at 12 years old only? What were the challenges? What were your expectations? How did it match up?
Okay. How shall I answer this question? I think when my kids were 5 and 7 years old, I don't think I have a lot of expectations for them, but I have a lot of anxieties, right? Because like you don't know what you don't know, right? So yes. I have a lot of anxieties about them. It's like, how would they fare in PSLE? In primary school, how would they? So I have a lot of anxieties. I think now, 10 years later, I think my anxieties are a lot less because I can see that I'm actually, my kids tell me I'm very cool, which I'm happy with also, that they acknowledge that I'm a cool mom because I no longer sweat where they're going because I feel that I've laid the foundation so well for them. They can make good choices for themselves. So and I want to be very clear. My kids made a lot of mistakes as well. Okay, you know what? Our kids, they are entitled and allowed to make those mistakes because this is part of their journey. I have also, I think to answer your question is it's also a learning point for me as a mom to realize that this is their life path. Okay, so I when they're 5 and 7, because I'm so anxious, right? I want them to do well. I want them to be okay. I want them to be happy. I want them to succeed, right? Like all parents. So I'm very anxious, and I'm kind of looking at every aspect, right? So I have over time realized that they are on the path that they are supposed to be. The lessons that they learn, they're supposed to learn them. And it is good that they learn their lessons now when they are a kid than when they learn their lessons much, much later, right? And if we allow them to learn this lesson, they learn it much faster. If we don't allow them to learn this lesson, guess what? The universe has this way of repeating the loop, right? Then the lessons will come again in secondary school and in university, then it just keeps coming and it gets tougher and tougher each lesson. So so I'm actually very comfortable with my kids and their progression. I always tell them, I'm very happy with their progress.
Wow.
Yeah.
I always thought Asian parents always never have enough. Yeah, but
I think with the spate of I think in the last couple of years we've heard a lot about suicide. I think there's nothing more scary for parents than to hear of another kid jumping off or committing suicide. So that's very scary. Now my kids are in secondary school. They're teenagers in poly. Guess what? I do hear stories of their peers, their friends, cutting themselves, being very stressed, having suicidal thoughts. It's a very real thing among teenagers in our school system. So I feel a bit bad for those kids, right? But I hopefully with what you and I are doing, more and more Asian parents are realizing that you can be an Asian parent. I'm very Asian parent, respect for elderlies. It's not like I'm so westernized. My kids know when it comes to family respect. There's no they can't there are cases where they've gone too far, talked back to me too far, and I have not smacked them, but I have given them, I have stopped them in their tracks and say, hey, and being very Asian about that. It's not doable. And so I think the new age Asian moms, we can be Asian in our values, being concerned in our Asianness with their education and their progress, still be able to take the best practices of the Westerners and learn to communicate better with our children and learn to allow them to communicate back with us, okay? And then build that relationship. So that relationship is no longer on authority of fear, but on authority of family.
Yeah, that's true. I want to say, like what you mentioned just now about kids having challenges. I can be one to say that I had the same. So I suffered depression between the O-level stages all the way to A-level stages because I didn't get into the school I wanted, was forced into that school. I did A-levels. A-levels is very fast-paced, very hard to comprehend. You're either good at it or bad. And during that period, just within, I think, short 3 months during that depression, I think I lost 20 kilos as a teenager. But thankfully, I didn't think of anything about self-harm. I was just, all I wanted was to, it was a typical depression syndrome, so you just sleep the life away, stay away from people. There was no self-harm involved. But yeah, nowadays there's a lot of self-harm talk. It's good that there are a lot of channels for them to actually communicate all this, but it's also bad that they are seeing a lot of such footage, content, and then they want to go and try that out on themselves as well. So it's quite scary.
Yeah, it is. And I think when your kids are in teenage years, we can have a whole different conversation. But so talking about your audience who are in with preschoolers.
Yes.
I want to strongly highlight this is enjoy them. This is the best years. You know what? You think your kids at 4 years old don't remember anything. You'll be surprised at how much they remember, because talking to my 17 and 14-year-old now, the things that they remember at 5 and 7 and even 4 years old, things that we've done, things where we've been, what we say to them, they remember. So build that relationship with them and invest in this relationship. So like earlier on, you were saying, your friends, they're very tired, they don't want to do things. Okay, I would strongly advise, think of, try and carve out time to think of this as not spending time with your kids, but investing in the future with your kids. Because the time that you spend with them now, right, in building this relationship, you reap the rewards when they're teenagers, right? So a lot of people ask me, how come your teenagers are still talking to you? You know why? Because I was talking to them when they were kids. And then I carry on the conversation. And nowadays, my teenagers, I just flop on the bed and I say, hey, what's up? I speak their lingos, so they will talk to me. My son, when he wants to talk to me, he will come in and hang out with me in my bedroom and say, hey, mom, while I'm watching TV and stuff like that, he'll come in and hang out and say, hey, mom, and then you know what? I'll stop the TV, pause it, and I'll talk to him. So if you want your child to talk to you in teenage years, talk to them now. Build that relationship. If the trust is there, the bond is there, you reap the rewards later. You might not see it now. It is a lot of work because now, as the preschoolers, they're very high energy. You're very tired.
Yes.
So you know what? Play tag team, right? So don't do it together, right? So split up. There's a mother, there's a father. So split up. Today is father's turn. Tomorrow is mother's turn. So when it's mother's turn, father take a break, right? So do that for each other, and so that will help. And then as they grow older and older, they don't want father mother anymore because they spend their with friends, right? That's when father mother must also have very good relationships. So if there's any advice that I would share with you in your friends with preschoolers is invest in the time now so that you can reap the rewards later. Okay. Number 2 is make sure you and your spouse have this conversation, okay, about the big stuff. Like when it comes to education, what is it that you expect, right? If you have sort of an idea what each other expect, then you in Chinese it's called 分工合作, delegate the assignments to each other, because some tasks dad really don't want to do, like going to school play or every day, all this minute stuff, leave it to mom, but maybe dad oversees certain things. So you and of course not all families are like that, because there are some dads who are very detail oriented, and then there are some moms who are very visionary persons, right? So whatever it is, your family dynamics, just have a conversation about where your child, what kind of education both of you expect of your children, because these are the product of both of you, right? So what is your expectations? Once you have that conversation, then the progress report, right, can be delegated to both parties. And
that's true.
Yeah, you don't have to do everything on your own, right? And you don't have to do everything together. So the trick with preschool parents, right, is do some things together. Of course, family bonding together, but certain things you can do separately.
That's true. I mean, me and my wife,
so
we allocate it out. We don't specifically allocate, but somehow we know what we are each looking at.
Yes, then it's not so taxing on each other, because then you as the dad and your wife as the mom, you have some breathing room to have your me time, do your own thing, and then you have you can then regroup, come back, you'll refresh, then you can come back and focus on the kid again, so you won't be so tired.
So I wanted to go back to something you mentioned just now. You said the first 7 years of a child's life, many people think they can't remember. Actually, in clinical psychology, there's a very well-known guy called Jordan Peterson. He studied children and he said the first 7 years are the formative years. That means how your child goes on with life is formed by the first 7 years of habits, first 7 years of education. Other than that, they're going to carry on. So I think the Asian parent tends to over-interpret it, whereby they use the first 7 years to over-educate, which means every Sunday they'll be at Higuru school, I Can Read school, Mind Champs, Mind Stretcher, all kinds of education class, because they think that first 7 years is where we can pack as much knowledge in their brain. So they over-interpret it, and then they don't invest in the soft relationship.
Yeah. So you're right. So the fact that you are doing that with your wife, that's a really good thing.
Not like we don't have challenges, we do have a lot, and that's why I want to talk to people who've been through it. Like you, as I mentioned, I would rather invest in a coach who been through that whole picture, understand it, rather than a person who read theories and books about it and then just can tell you the rough theory and the rough use case scenarios they've read about instead of witnessed. So I mean, you're helping me a lot.
That's good. Happy to do so. Actually, as a parent coach, right? So I think the let me see how I can explain this. So the things that usually parents will come to me to assist them is if mother and father cannot agree on the education style, cannot agree on the day-to-day how they're raising their kids. So these are some of the internal problems, because and also financial commitments, right? Because sometimes I think if one spouse wants to do too many of all these enrichment programs, it gets very expensive, and then it gets very heavily financed. The financial burden gets very heavy. So these are some of the stuff that we can work out between the spouses, because it also affects the relationship, and because the spousal relationship has a direct effect on your child, right? The children they are very intuitive beings. So like you say earlier on, right? If you have a bad day, your daughter intuitively can feel it. So even though children are like playing, they seem very nonchalant, but they can feel it. They can feel the tension. So that's where the coaching comes in for the parents. But on the rest of the other things like the building the relationship, the bonding. I think there are so much materials online that actually a lot of parents can just Google for it and find very, very helpful information for themselves.
But I think that why they invest in a coach is because every article is abstract, right? The coach actually puts it together, one piece, apply, instead of them having to pick pieces from everywhere. That's why you add value in that area. I wanted to ask you this question, right? Again, it's because my audience and my friends are all between the 28 to 35 age, whereby they're changing career. They might have suddenly a child or another child, or they might have planned for a child and it suddenly comes along. I wanted to ask you, with what you already know today, what would have been different and what would you have changed in order to tweak those formative years for your kids? I mean, you might not want to change anything, but were there anything that you felt if you had done better back then, they could have added this additional skill, or were there things, because like you are in a different era to us, your kids are already 10 years ahead of ours. So was there certain things that you think you could have added on and given to them for them to become even happier? I would say focus on happiness and self-beliefs and all.
No, I think when I was raising my kids, I was very purposeful when I was raising my kids. Okay, so I'm using that word intentionally because I think it really resonates with me. Purposeful because I knew that I wanted to not work full time so that I could spend the time with the kids while the kids were still in their preschool and then in the primary school formative age. So I was very purposeful about that. So I was actually a stay-at-home mom for about 5 years. And then I realized that as a mom, if I'm not happy, then there are also repercussions. So that's why I started to become a parent blogger and started to slowly return back to the workforce and connect with working adults again.
Wow. Okay? Then can I ask you this may I ask you this question just to interrupt you, like tough question but very purposeful question again, is you were a stay-at-home mom for 5 years. How do you deal with all the self-doubt, the comments? I mean, most comments will be nice, will be good, but how do you deal with self-doubt and how do you deal with transition back into career? Because I've been recruited 10 years, 11 years right now, and I find that stay-at-home moms, the longer they become stay-at-home moms, the lesser confidence they have to go for interviews, and they tend to say very self-degrading comments. So how do you face that?
I think I think I was quite hurt a few times when I hear comments like, "Oh, that auntie." So it can be quite hurtful to be a stay-at-home mom, but just because you're a stay-at-home mom doesn't mean that you are. So number one, if you are choosing to be a stay-at-home mom, you need to understand that taking care of yourself is also a priority, right? So I think a lot of stay-at-home moms forget about themselves. They're taking care of the house, they're taking care of the children, they're taking care of husband, taking care of everything else but themselves, okay? So if there's anything I would say is, number one lesson I learned is, if you're a stay-at-home mom, take care of yourself. So if you need to go do a manicure, you need to take a day off, spa day, take it, okay? Leave the kids with the husband, leave the kids with the helper, make sure you take care. Number two is have a good support system. And a good support system, yes, can be your in-laws, can be your mom, can be your family members, but very, very important, and most important of all, they are your friends. Okay? It can be your own group of stay-at-home moms, or it could be just friends, right? So from childhood friends. So that support system is very important. And I think for husbands, right, if you want your wife to be happy, encourage her to have that support system. Allow her to have a constant connection with that support system. Because if she is emotionally, because the husband can only emotionally fill the tank so much, okay? Some of the tank has to be filled by that support system. It's a womanly thing, okay? So I would encourage that emotional support is very important.
Wow.
And the third thing is, if you, like for me, initially I was planning to be a stay-at-home mom. Then I realized, hey, I need to come back to work because otherwise I'm going to go insane, right? So what I did is, I recognized that I'm coming back to work. So nowadays, career coaches are very common, and WSG career coaches are free. So go look it up, go look online, get help, right, to get some information. Number two is if you are not ready to come back to work immediately, there's what is called the transition period. Okay, so 5 things that you can do that will allow you to slowly gain back the skill sets, the working skill sets. So, for example, my first job from being a stay-at-home mom is to work for Aware. It's a non-profit organization. It's a training. So the first thing they asked me is, do you have any experiences? So of course I didn't. But you know what? Because when I was a stay-at-home mom, I was conducting parenting talks, right? So I said yes, right? So I was slowly transiting myself back. And they asked me, do you have any experiencing, arranging events? I say yes, because how many birthday parties have I arranged? Sleepovers, I'm very proficient in it. So the things that you do as a mom, right? They are still skills. They are skills on a more minute level. So you need to slowly transit them to a larger level back to work. So you can do that. So some of my work, stay-at-home moms say, I got no skills, I don't know anything. I say, have you organized anything? So you've got event management skills. And when I ask them, they say yes, organize parties, organize family outings, organize family trips. I say that's event management. Have you, and some of them organize their home family finances. I say, so you have financial, skill sets, right? And some of them, so whatever you do, every woman, we have our skill sets and it's all transferable. So, you can use those skill sets. Go volunteer in the school, whether it's preschool. Go if you have a religious organization, go volunteer there. Do a little bit of work. I know, like some of my friends, they are team leaders in their youth organization. This kind of things, every little bit helps, right? And if you don't have any of these, you can volunteer. We have like hundreds of our non-profit organizations. Go call one of them and say, what kind of help do you need? Go volunteer.
Wow. So you didn't live within that self-depreciating comments. You did experience it a while, but you try and find a way out of it, try and reinvent yourself.
Yes. When people say all these self-depreciating comments, right? Again, you can't stop them. I mean, once it's out of their mouth, you cannot stop your ears from hearing it. So even if you hear it, you feel sad, you feel upset. So this is where the support system helps. Go and cry, vent it, right? And go tell your husband, go tell your friends, go vent it out, right? And so that's why I say, husbands, it would be a big help to moms if you can encourage them to have this kind of support system. Their girls' time, this really helps them.
Yeah, I'm probably guilty of not doing enough of that. Then my next question I want to ask you is, you said you need a support group, right? Because again, knowing the people that I know, in that support group, your friends, your childhood friends, all, will they be stay-at-home moms or will they be career women as well? Because isn't it going to be counterproductive if your support group is a career woman who's chasing everything you want, but you can't chase it?
So when I say support group, right, I think you need to have a bit of both. So by the time you become a mom, you will probably have friends who are still in careers.
Yes.
Okay. And you have friends who are, you know, because your daughter goes to school, right? You will naturally meet the other moms. So it's very natural for you to have what I call mommy daddy friends.
Yes.
Right? So because they're all mommy and daddies, they're same age group. But keep in touch with your friends. So who are maybe either haven't started their family yet or, you know, going to. So you can still keep in touch with them. Why? Because these are your adult time. So keep in touch with them. This is your support system. So this is when you can have your adult time. You can keep in touch with your mommy daddy friends because this is your support system when you can grab about the children and, you know, talk about talk about kiddie stuff, right? So you have it's different kind of support. Yeah. And then the couple time also important for husband and wife to have that kind of time. Yeah. And then
it's like a whole new subject to research and work on and structure your life around.
Yeah. So because it's so many different things that we talked about today. So I also want to share, you know, take it like our children, the advice we give our children, one step at a time.
Wow.
So as parents, one step at a time. Okay, baby steps. If you feel like, oh, I need to transit back to work, okay, take baby steps towards it. So have an ending at the, you know, have a goal at the end, and then just take baby steps towards it, right? And then have your support system to encourage you. You know how we always clap for our kids, they did so well. So do that for yourself also. Have a support system to do that for you as well. So that's where your friends can come in, right? And say, good job, okay? So slowly you will move forward. And you can, and you know how when you set goals, right? So it might be 2 years down the road when you say, hey, I want to go back to work in 2 years' time. Okay, so that's your goal. So slowly, you know, plan it out, work it out. Yeah. So how we encourage our kids, encourage yourself as well.
Wow, I think like what you're doing at WSG is absolutely suitable for you because the passion to actually understand where you came from, and you know, like all this, there's a whole population of stay-at-home moms in Singapore, not including the fact there's also a lot of stay-at-home dads right now. I know a lot of stay-at-home dads because of choice, because of pandemic, because of all kinds of things, but imagine the troubles they will be facing, and with the troubles they'll try to hide even more. Instead of coming out, they'll try and hide because that's just natural for human beings, right? We want to hide away from attention. We don't want people to know that we are stay-at-home dads or what. I think there was just one article, if you read on Straits Times lately, about this stay-at-home dad who came back from US, and people at NTUC laughing at him because he comes every day. They say he's the stay-at-home dad, the wife works for him and pays his bills.
Oh, okay. So I want to tell you, stay-at-home dads, you know, I think you are great. All right. So never be ashamed that you're staying at home, because I think you know, fathers, you know, I want to say daddies are just as important as mommies are. Okay, but in a different ball game. So if you're a stay-at-home dad, kudos to you. You know, I think you should hold your head up high, and I think it's great that you want to spend the time with the kids. And again, it's an investment. Your kids appreciate it, and you might not feel it now. You might think, oh my gosh, you know, what am I doing? But I will tell you, you know, do this now. And you know, even during my time, I've known a couple of stay-at-home dads. He stayed at home to look after the children, to take care of their education needs. And you know what? The kids have gone on to do so well. So I would say, you know, please, you know, you reap your rewards with the children. It comes later, but it will come. Promise you that.
Yeah, but I kind you know right, in society, like the dad's the sole breadwinner. Oh no, not the sole breadwinner, but the guy who should be championing the home. So when you're not the one leading the front, all that social pressure and societal
Yeah.
issues. Oh,
Yes, understand. I mean, this is very tough times for us, right? But I just want to say that yeah, no shame in being stay-at-home dads at all. No shame in being stay-at-home moms either. Both equally
wow.
great. Yeah, there's a time and place for everything.
Wow. I respect that because I still cannot overcome it. Like if me asking me to do it, I really cannot do it. My mind will play games with me until I go crazy.
I see. So, if I may touch on the subject of stay-at-home dads for a minute. So, because we live in a very Asian culture, right? So, whereby the society, the expectation is still the men go out to work, be the main breadwinner. I get it. So, this is where I say I'm also Asian. I get it. Okay, but I also want to say that times are changing. All right, there are women who are breaking ceiling,
Yeah,
earning more money,
yeah,
and I say go for it. And so why can't dads stay at home as well? So if you have friends who want to become stay at home dads, here's how they can overcome it. You know, planning is. I think there has to be some sort of planning because there's always that financial commitment that we're talking about, right? So planning in such a way that your finances are taken care of, okay, and also maybe don't be a like a full-time stay-at-home dad. Be a daddy influencer. It's quite common nowadays. If I can be a mom blogger, why can't you be a dad influencer? And there are so many. And in Singapore, I know that there are about 10 of them. They've become very popular. And a lot of dads are very good with photography or video, right? So that's where they specialize in. And I've known quite a few, very popular daddy influencers. So that's something that you can think of. You can think of doing things on the side, pursue your interests. I knew a dad who also stay at home to look after his kids and manage their education, right? But he didn't just stay at home, and he came from corporate Singapore, very advertising agency corporate. So, but he stayed at home for a while, but he was also kind of building like a garden on the side, managing his family's property. So it wasn't like he was idle, right? He was doing other things. It's just not working full time. So I think perception needs to change a little, perhaps.
yeah, it's true. I mean, I myself also, like, one of the reasons why I started this whole company, this whole movement, is because I also hope to influence entrepreneurs who are also dads to pursue both. That means I used to be the person who was always in shirt and tie, and I lived that for 11 years. It's not that I don't want to live it, I like it. It was not imposter, but I also wanted to show people that you can also be a good dad, and you could also be a sympathetic, empathetic person to your kids instead of being always that white white shirt and black tie kind of a person, very formal, very strict. Don't have to be. So yeah, that's something I was also thinking about because I want to impact people to change their mindsets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you what, I won't take up too much of your time. Thank you very much for this, but we'll carry on this on multiple other topics so that we can help more, because I think your findings is very radical. Your experience says it all, because like you brought up kids who use what you taught them, utilized it, and there are proven results that you've managed to help them change. So I wanted to actually talk to you more. Otherwise, all we know about in education is just the typical Hebrew rules and all that. I'm bringing my kids to every weekend, pushing them, teaching them how to read when they actually don't enjoy it. Because I've been to so many supplementary classes. I think my parents spent thousands and thousands on tuition, which I absolutely hated, but I just went for it because I thought it was just a KPI in me.
Okay. So I think education is a very big can of worms that can open up. But I think as long as you've laid the foundation well, and your child knows how to read, enjoys reading, and of course know their numbers and their writing, so the foundation is set. Actually, P1 is quite easy. So P1 is actually whatever you've learned in K2. Okay, so the school is not that strict. P1 is about understanding discipline, making friends, being in a bigger environment. P2 onwards, then they step up, right? And then it's P3, then P3 and P5 are the spikes that you have to look out for. Other than that, and I think most important is teaching your child how to make friends. I find that a lot of parents put too much emphasis on academics. They forget to help their children make friends. And I actually have seen some blowback, as in there are some kids who are suffering in secondary school because they are not socially integrating that well. That's more of a problem.
Wow. Okay, that's a whole new topic, because I don't know whether I'm good. I think I'm very good at making corporate friends, but I'm very bad at making personal friends, because I'm very... I don't know, I've been trying to decipher this piece of science as well with myself, but I think that's another topic that we should discuss later.
Sure. Yeah,
okay, thank you very much. We'll end this session from here, and then we'll discuss the next session in another topic.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.